Kyles. Peace to the family. Welcome to this stream. Today, all of the things that define civilization and history begins with Kemet. Before I get into why we should start history with Kemet, that's something I want to point out. And that is why we would even want to begin history with Kemet and why we should bother. And I'll tell you something that I've noticed, and I've been an educator for decades. And here's one thing that I noticed. The people who the Almighty had in mind, you were here hundreds of thousands of years before there was any other supposed race. And here we are today. Our people, our Black people, and I'm particularly concerned with Black Americans, our people know so little about our true history. We believe that our history began with slavery. Now, by the time we get into our 20s, 30s, 40s, we begin to see that there has been a big trick played on us again. Then we begin to self-educate ourselves, but our children are suffering. They're suffering with extremely low self-esteem. A lot of times, collectively, if not individually, they think very lowly of their own people from a civilizational standpoint. And of course, why wouldn't they? When they go to school, when they go to high school, when they go to middle school, what they learn is that history began with the Greeks and the Romans. However, the Greeks and the Romans were happy to exchange their clothes for the clothes of the ancient Egyptians, the Kemetic people. Well, I'm here to say, young man, young woman, your history does not begin with slavery. Your story began when humanity emerged on Earth. Because of this really poor socialization and education, you believe your history began with slavery. So I'm going to really show you how this mindset is really misleading. It's also destructive, but it's wrong. And I'll make that very clear to you. First thing I want to point out, this is the very first historical document in existence that we know of. This is the first that can be proven as a historical document. As far as something documenting something historical, something that has happened in the past, this would be the first. It's called the Narmer palette. If you visit the Cairo Museum with me in Egypt, in Cairo, Egypt, if you visit that with me, you will see this. This is the first Nisut, king, pharaoh of ancient Egypt. And he has united the highland of Kemet and the lowland of Kemet. And I'll just say it right here in case you don't know, Kemet is the name in which the ancient Egyptians called their own country. On the left, you see him wearing the crown of Upper Egypt in the south. And behind him is his sandal bearer, holding his sandal, holding his pail of water. This war is already over. He's about to crush that foreigner who's clearly from outside Africa. He's about to crush him. And what he's holding up there is a mace, essentially a stick with a rock on it. This is over. This is the coup de grace. But if you look on the other side, on the right side of the screen, you see the king. He has a different crown. And this is the crown of Northern Egypt. This is a palette which was used for mixing makeups. So in the time in which it goes back to over 5,000 years ago, it was used to mix makeup. And here it is today, the oldest historical document in all of human history. I've done several videos on the normal palette. If you want more depth about this, I'm sure you can find it in one of my other videos on YouTube or on my website, blackandgold.us. And one important thing about the normal palette, where was it found? Now, ancient Egypt, Kemet, had states. For example, the United States of America, we have states. And so did ancient Egypt. And they were called Sapat, but under the Greeks, we came to know them as nomes, Nome, nomes. So the very first nome of ancient Egypt is number one right there, Ta Seti. You can see it right there about Elephantine and Aswan. And in the third nome of ancient Egypt, that is where the Normer palette was found. So this is deep in the heart of Africa. It's not up in the Mediterranean, in the marshlands where the foreigners came from. It's right there at the beginning of Africa. The first state of ancient Egypt, the first Sapat, was right where you see the number one. It was Ta Seti, land of the bow. And the administrative center for Ta Seti was right there in Elephantine. So when you go to Kemet, be certain to visit Elephantine. If you visit on my Kemet 101 tour, I will certainly take you to see Elephantine. And of course, the Normer palette, but you visit Elephantine, which is one of the most glorious places to visit in modern day Egypt. One of the other documents that proves the first historians were ancient Egypt, were the ancient Egyptians, is the Diary of Mer. The Diary of Mer. And this is a log of activity. So when you visit the Giza Plateau, Saqqara, Dashur, you see these glorious monuments and pyramids. Well, this wasn't all in the head of the people who designed, organized, and built those monuments and those pyramids. Much of it was written down. And Mer was an official during the days of Khufu, for whom the Great Pyramid was built. And it documents the process of moving the stones from the area of the Red Sea all the way to the Giza Plateau. So these combination of documents, the Normer palette as well as the Diary of Mer, both written over 5,000 years ago. And this is long before the Odyssey or Beowulf or any other literature, or especially history, before any other history was written from Asia, Europe, or anywhere else on the planet. The very first historians on the earth, beyond the shadow of a doubt, were the ancient Kemetic people. And I mean, as far as what can be proven, not speculation, not suggestion. I'm talking about what can explicitly and obviously be proven. The very first historians on this planet were the people of Kemet. Now, let's say you believe otherwise, then great. You make a video, prove what you're saying, falsify what I'm saying, and then reference me, and then I'll have to pay the price for that. But I know you won't be able to find that info. Now, let's get into it, family. The very first historians, as proven by the stone of the Normer palette and the papyrus paper of the Diary of Mer, the first historians were the people of Kemet. Therefore, human history, Black history, begins with the people of Kemet. Now, let's get into something else. I have said, and I'm saying now, Black history, the writing of Black history begins with Kemet. So many people would be inclined because of their misinformation to say, oh, well, the ancient Egyptian people were not Black. These people suffer from the same miseducation as the two children in the image that I showed you in the beginning. It's a misinformation that will lead you to believe that the people of Kemet were not Black people. Well, what I'm saying here, not only were the people of ancient Kemet Black, they were pro-Black, and I'm going to prove it. First, let's begin with the image that you can see here very clearly. The name Kemet in hieroglyphs. You see the charred wood there and on the far left, Kim. Then right in the middle, you see the owl, that's the sound M. And then you see on the end, T, that loaf of bread at the top right. So that's Kemet. What this word means, it means Black nation or Black country. I've heard a scholar I respect, his name is, oh man, it's gonna come to me. But he said that it means Black city. And I can understand why he's saying that, because under that T, that circle looks like a kind of like a cross in the middle. That cross is really, it's roads. It's a crossroads, which signifies a city center. But when the Kemetic people, when they used it, they were signifying a political entity, like a city or a state / nome / sapat, right? But they also used that symbol, to clarify that they were talking about their own country, the nation of Kemet. So when you see that it's called a determinative, sometimes called a clarifier on the bottom right. And when you see that, they are talking about a political entity. Now, you will hear some folks say that this means Black, this word means Black lands. But there were so many other determinatives that they could have used if they were making a reference to the lands. So this is not Black lands. This is the Black nation, the Black country, not the Black lands. Now, why are these people calling their country Black? It's because they hold it in high regard. They think highly of Black, and they think highly of themselves and their country. They centered their own gods and goddesses, the own Almighty Most High that we know by many names. They centered that God, and they centered themselves, right? They were not a colony. They were the focus. So Kemet, the Black state or the Black country, the determinative with the crossroads right there, signifying that they're talking about a political entity, not a simple description of the land. So this is the first proof that not only were they Black, they were pro-Black. You know, it's possible to exalt yourself, your God, your ancestry, without denigrating others. And I think that's what people don't get about Kemet, and that's what they don't get about we self-respecting pro-Black people today, particularly Black Americans. To bring that point home, Kemet means black state, black nation, black country, a political entity. It does not mean black land. If you disagree with me, like I said, inbox me, contact me in one way or another, and I'll be happy to debate you publicly. But I don't debate nameless people, and I don't debate faceless people. There's something else I wanted to show you, and this is more proof that the people of Kemet, not only were they black, they were pro-black. If you visit the Giza Plateau, and about 20 million people per year are going to visit the Giza Plateau. And when you do, you will see this pyramid that right here on the right. It's the Pyramid of Khafra. It has a distinct look because at the top, it still has a little bit of the original outer casing that was used when it was built. And this man, Khafra, he is the son of Khufu, for whom the Great Pyramid was built. Well, this man, Khafra, he had a Neterhemp, and her name, a wife, and her name is Merce Ankh III. And right in the image, the tomb of Merce Ankh III, if you go with me to the Giza Plateau, join my Kemet 101 tour to Egypt, or if I give you a tour of the Giza Plateau, a daily tour, you will see this for yourself. The woman that you see on both sides, that image is Merce Ankh. And I've seen a colorized image of this. It is very black, it's jet black, but what you're seeing is a black and white image. And you can see how black she was depicted in her tomb. So how many times have you seen a picture on the internet or anywhere, and the picture was touched up, right? But it was touched up to appear to be a little bit lighter. And that's because in modern culture, folks associate lighter with better and darker with worse. But in the days of Kemet, here, as obviously seen in this this image of the tomb of Merce Ankh III from 100 years ago, before the modern Egyptians began to use acid and such to remove the black skin color. Before that, she was going into the hall of Ma'ati, into heaven, as a black skinned person, as black skin. Clearly, they venerated black skin. And there's so many other pieces of evidence like this that I can show you, but I don't have a lot of time. So I'll just show you this one. Clearly, these folks were pro-black. So you can see it in the name, the black state, not the black lands, the black state. They venerate black. The tomb of Merce Ankh, while when she's going into the next realm of existence, going into heaven, she's depicted as black. And there's something else that I'd like to show you. It's clear that these folks, this Kemetic, Pharaonic culture originated in the heartland of Africa, not in the marshlands up near the Mediterranean, not in some foreign desert land or anything like that, right in the heart of Africa. So this is the Khustul incense burner. Now, it was created before Egypt was established, and it was found in the area of Khustul in Nubia. But this is in modern day Sudan. And what it clarifies is that the Pharaonic culture began in Sudan. You can see the border between Sudan and Egypt. That you can see that Khustul as well into Sudan. But that very same incense burner that I just showed you, you can see the presence of images related to the Pharaonic culture. So follow me to the far left. That image that kind of looks like concentric circles, but is more like concentric rectangles. It's a sarek, and it kind of symbolizes kind of like the city center thing. It's a civilization, right? And so you see that same symbol that's used on the Norma palette, here it is used on the Kutsul incense burner. Then the second image, you see the boat. This is the very same thing. When you go to the Grand Egyptian Museum, you'll see Khufu's solar bark. You see the same image here, the bark, the boat. If you go to the third part, which is the most telling, if you see a king with a crook and a flail on his chest, he has the crown of Upper Egypt, right? Which is the highlands, the area of Tai-Seti, Elephantine, modern day Nubia. You see, and right in front of his face, you see a hawk atop of a sarek. This is all of the symbology that was later used in Pharaonic Kemet Egypt. So the evidence makes it very clear. Pharaonic culture began in Sudan. The imagery that we see on the Norma palette began in Sudan. So this brings home the point. The writing of Black history began in Kemet, and unquestionably, Kemet, they were not only Black, they were pro-Black. They called themselves Black. They called their country Black. They depicted themselves going into the next realm of existence as Black. The most successful civilization in human history was proud to be Black, and they've lasted. They existed longer than any other nation in human history. That can be proven. So you have to begin your Black history with Kemet. Stop misleading your children. Stop misleading yourself. Stop setting your children up to be failures, or not so much failures, but failures from a civilizational standpoint. And that's what you do when you perpetuate the whole idea that Black people, African people, they were savages in Africa, cannibalistic savages in Africa. Then they were enslaved. And then some European who barely came into civilization himself civilized the original people of the earth, God's chosen people. Come on, that's laughable. Stop letting the Catholic Church, stop letting the church that told you you were a slave, the church that told you you needed to pay the price for what somebody else did, and that justified your enslavement, and that you should take this opportunity of enslavement to become civilized like your slaver. The only way they're able to tell you this, the only way they're able to get away with this, is by completely dismissing Kemet, leaving it out of the history book. And when they do mention it, they tell you that the ancient Egyptians look like Charleston Heston or somebody, that the people of the Bible even look like Europeans. So I'll tell you, Kemet didn't enslave any Hebrews or Jews. The modern day Jew is a fraud, and our history did not begin with slavery. Black history needs to begin where it should begin, and that is the great nation and civilization of Kemet. My suggestion to every household, every library, private school library, university, public university library, home library needs this book. Most of the images that I've shown you today are in this book, Kemet 101, An Introduction to Ancient Egyptian History and Culture. The images are color. It's only 120 pages, but there isn't any waste. There is no fluff. Much love.